This episode is sponsored by WeHaveMerch.com. WeHaveMerch.com. Prices starting at only $12.99. Sizes up to 6XL. 17 different shirt designs. Buy 2 shirts and get a bigger discount. Anybody that buys 3 shirts gets a 10-minute guest spot on Cool Kids Countdown. Buy one now. This episode is also sponsored by the following.
Glowing Hearts knows that you have a right to choose any in-home provider you wish. At Glowing Hearts, committed to caring isn't just a tagline, it's a promise to their clients, employees, and communities that they have the honor to service in Pemmican, Dunklin, New Madrid, Butler, Scott, Mississippi, Stoddard, Wayne, Bollinger, and Cape counties. For more information, contact Glowing Hearts at 844-390-3735 in Marston or 573-803-2716 in Cape Girardeau. Glowing Hearts, committed to caring.
Get ready, guys. Mark it on your calendar. Saturday, June the 23rd, Harrison, Arkansas, Youth Center. A big reminder is that Harrison, Arkansas is only 30 minutes south of Branson, Missouri, and only about an hour from Springfield, Missouri. I want you to join us at the Legends of Wrestling as we return to Harrison, Arkansas. That's right, guys. This is a family-friendly event to help a great cause. All the proceeds will go to Jake Boulder's Medical Relief. So who's going to be at the Legends of Wrestling? It's going to be Jerry the King Lawler, Superstar Bill Dundee, Tim Storm, Hall of Fame referee James Beard, Gary Graham, Matt Riviera, Space Cowboy Jason Jones, the Diamond Dogs, Mr. Saturday Night Michael Berry, and many more. You can get your tickets at www.mswtickets.com. Be there! Have you listened to episode 47, 17, 19? That's right. If you like this episode with Dustin Starr, go back and listen to all 3 of those episodes. Here's a clip from episode 17. All the archives are at www.stspod.club.
That and also being called out by Bill Dundee. You know, I went to the Coliseum at one point and it was Lawler versus Dundee on top. I had a Jerry Lawler shirt that hung down to my knees, and I ran into Bill Dundee on the concourse with my family, and Bill looks at me, and, you know, of course, now me and Bill have a lot of history in the ring together, but at that time I'm a kid, and he goes, "Boy, where the hell did you get that shirt from?" And I remember looking at my parents like, "Oh my gosh, you got me in trouble. I've got a Lawler shirt on." There's Dundee. But, yeah, May 9th, 1988. So we are on the anniversary of Lawler winning the world title today.
Well, this is perfect then. So tell us, you've been in the ring 20, 30 times with the King, and our guest after you is Gene Jackson, who had a kind of like living his dream kind of thing. It's been done a couple of times, so he's was excited, had some fun stories. But so I know it's going to be hard. I know you've been thinking about this because you kind of knew what I was going to ask you. So let's pick a couple of really good stories about the King. And just for the record, how many victories do we hold over the King? Because I know that's hard to get a win over him.
It is hard to get, but I've had a couple of victories over the King. Let me start with the very first time that Jerry Lawler wrote me a check. So the first time I ever wrestled at a promotion for Jerry Lawler. Yeah, it was at a TV taping for Memphis Wrestling. We were at the casino in Tunica. And I think it was actually the first time as well that I ever wrestled.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's start the party.
In May of 2006, I started a website, WrestlingRiotOnline.com, where I covered the Memphis area wrestling scene. I decided to become the Dave Meltzer of the area and kayfabe nothing. I gave stars to matches, talked psychology, and gave gates of the shows. This had never been done, and it was a favorite side of many people, and some people just hated me. In May of 2011, after 5 years of posting, I shut the site down. I opened it again when we started the podcast back up and renamed it. But all the old information, guys, is still there. This month, to celebrate the site, we will be posting the Memphis in May series, with guests being some of the wrestlers of the Memphis series. Guys that were popular during the Wrestling Riot years. Sit back and relax and listen to our guests and enjoy Memphis in May. Hey everyone, we're live from STS Studios here in St. Louis, Missouri, and I got waiting in the green room making his third appearance on Shootin The Shiznit, but we're doing something a little different this time. Come on, Dustin Starr, come on out, 5-star. Hello?
I'm here.
All right, come on, buddy, come on.
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
to me.
Do it, BT. You better hit my music, brother.
All right, I'll do some post-editing. I'll put your music in the background. How's that sound?
Oh, yeah. What's up, man?
How's it going, man? You know, we've been knowing each other forever. You've been on here a couple of times, and we talked about various things. But we doing this Memphis in May series, and it's pretty much just a tribute to the old Wrestling Riot site and bringing on guys that were popular to the fans, to me. And to everyone during Wrestling Riot, and we've had a bunch of people. You were very popular during that time, and now also. But you was one of the top three guys in the area. So let's first one of the top threes. Well, I know in your mind you've always been number one, so there's nothing wrong with that. Some guys don't get it.
Well, maybe not always been number one, but I would like to think that I was always at least in the top two.
And there's
Who do
one
you got
guy
in your
that
top
you
three, BT?
See
who you have in your top three?
Yeah. I don't want to mention who's in my top three because if I do, it'll probably just piss you off. So.
I love it. Okay, well, we'll skip that then.
Yeah, let's make this a fun episode. So let's first start. Dustin, as long as we've known each other, I really don't know your story. I don't know how you, and when they listened to the Derek King episode, when they listened to it, they see that there's some things on there I didn't know about Derek as long as I've known you. So talk about Dustin the fan when he was growing up and everything, and who were your favorites, and when did you get started watching wrestling?
Oh, man, I got started watching wrestling right out of the jump, man. Living in Memphis, it wasn't really about WWF or WWE or WCW. It was about Memphis wrestling, Lance and Dave. So that was always my thing, is I wanted to be on Memphis television with Lance and Dave because that's what we grew up watching, man. We were at the Coliseum. We went to the studio television wrestling. When we went on vacation for the summers, we'd have our parents, and I say we, me and my sisters, we would have our parents record it because we watched all the time. Me and my buddies would wrestle growing up. My friend Danny, we watched, you can live tweet now, but me and him would watch Nitro and Raw while we were on the phone together and just click back and forth and talk. So, I'm as big of a wrestling fan as there is. I still watch wrestling every single day. If I get home from a Redbirds baseball game or a Grizzlies game and I can't sleep, or a wrestling show I can't wind down, I turn on WWE Network. And so eventually, I was 15 years old. I looked up the phone book. Probably one of the only times I've ever used the phone book, BT.
Oh, wow.
And that tells you how long ago it was. It was about 20 years ago. So I picked up the phone and I called Channel 5 and, I asked about the wrestling show. They actually gave me another phone number. I called that phone number and they linked me up with Outlaw Don Bass. And before I got off the phone, I said, by the way, who is this? And they said, Randy Hales. Man, I watch you on TV, which is the biggest, fan thing to say. But that's kind of what started. And I called Don Bass, and my mom drove me out. Yes, my mom drove me out to beat Don Bass. And I had to pay for it myself. I could not wait to finish wrestling school so I could be a big-time professional wrestler making all kinds of money. And little did I know there were a lot of dues to be paid first, bro.
Yeah, that lot of money and being a wrestling superstar is, you tell the story that a lot of guys in that area tell the same thing. And me too, the playground was all full. I want to be Jerry the King Lawler's. That was our heroes. And growing up, in that area, everyone watched wrestling. All you could say is Jerry Lawler, and they know who it. And today also they know who Jerry Lawler is. But funny, Don Bass. So tell us about training with Don Bass. I mean, start. When you first got there, say the first couple of weeks, what was you thinking?
What in the world am I doing? Because when I pulled up in Jericho, Arkansas, it was a barn. It was a barn, BT. I know you've heard the stories, man. This was a barn, and there were 4 ropes. The ring wasn't elevated or anything, so it was on the concrete. They had probably 20 slabs of carpet that was laid across the top, maybe a little bit of padding. And then inside the barn, you could only hit like one side of the ropes just because it was so tight. It was such a small space. And in the summer, it was really, really hot. And when it started getting colder outside, it was really, really cold. And we still trained in there. And we would train about twice a week. And I trained for over a year because I was so young when I got in. I started training when I was 15. So I had my first match right at the 16, 17-year-old mark. But, man, I was wondering, what the heck did I get myself into? What is this? Why am I not training in a ring? And it hurt. It hurt. And the way that Don taught you was that if you could take bumps in here, once you get into the ring, a real wrestling ring, you'd be able to take bumps. You'll be just fine. But it was, and you gotta think, I was probably 140 pounds. I was a kid, literally a kid, 15 years old, wrestling with guys like Jamie Fair, which is Jet Logan. He was about 230 pounds of muscle. Or even Alex Crisis, he was a bigger guy than me. Simon Reed, who you just had on, he was a much bigger guy than me. So I always had to kind of take care of myself. I remember one time in training, one of the first times we ever got into a real wrestling ring, a guy picked me up against my will and powerbombed me. And I couldn't control what was going on. And luckily I didn't get hurt. I got out of the ring really fast. It was a guy that was unsafe, wasn't a trained wrestler. And he kind of thought it was funny, and it wasn't. It was very dangerous. And at that point I thought, oh my gosh, like I could see. He wants to go for real. And you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And he told me where to kick him, if you know what I'm saying. But
who told you that? Don did? Don told you to do it that way, right?
Bill Dundee.
Oh, Dundee told you, don't do anything you don't want to do.
So Randy at one point asked Bill to come and kind of talk to me because I was a smaller guy. And I know Bill's hate to hear, but he was a smaller guy too. So he gave me some pointers on, stuff like that happening and how to protect myself because, the smaller guys and the bigger guys, what are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Right. It's Dundee's been in almost some Dundee stories been in almost every one of these, and there's a reason why, guys, because he was he's a legend in the Memphis area. So we're training and we're getting ready. Me and Simon talked about this, and I think me and you mentioned it once on one of the other episodes. I was there. Was I there for your first match? I was, right?
Yes, you were.
Talk about that first match. Yeah, talk about that.
Oh my gosh, I think it was in Paragould, Arkansas. That sounds right, BT?
It's either Paragould, Wiener, and yes, there is a Wiener, Arkansas, guys. It's either Paragould.
It wasn't Wiener
or Rector.
I would have remembered Rector, and I would have remembered Wiener for obvious reasons. So it was definitely Paragould. And quick plug, real quick, is me and my Maria are going to be returning for the first time. I don't think she's ever been to Paragould. So we'll be coming to Paragould on June 16th. It's a Saturday. It's June Jam. And I have laid out a 5-star challenge to Brandon Baxter. So we might get that match for the first time ever.
And Paragould
we've never
is
wrestled
fun.
one-on-one.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yep. And what was the question? I'm sorry.
Well, I was
The
there
first
at the
match?
first match. Yeah, let's take everyone back to that first match. And, I know you got the nerves and the whole deal, but talk about that first match. We were there. I was Coach BT, and I was there. I think I was managing Total Chaos or Riot Squad. Paragould, guys, is a little bitty small town in Arkansas, but the crowds still believe, and they're really fun to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just never forget that night wrestling Jet Logan in the opening match. We were supposed to go, I think, a 10-minute Broadway, which I hate 10-minute Broadway. Just pin me or something. Give the people a winner. Anyways, we were waiting on the cue from Jim Casey. And Jim Casey, most of you guys probably know him if you're listening and you know the independent scene around here in Memphis, but he was basically Don Bass's best buddy. So he would drive us to the shows or we would drive him to the shows, but we were waiting on his cue, and he never gave us the cue, so the finish was all messed up, and I ended up beating Jet Logan instead of going Broadway because the bell was supposed to ring, and it didn't, so I won. But I'll never forget, Jim, what happened? Where was the cue? And, of course, he blamed it on something else, but I remember going back through the curtain and going, oh, my gosh, that was so much fun. I want to do it again. And then they were like, well, good, because you're in the Battle Royal. I'm like, oh. So I got to work twice that night. But, yeah, you were there. You were definitely there in the locker room. And one of the things I'll never forget is when I first walked in, it was like you could hear a pin drop in the locker room. Like, who are these guys? And then I remember seeing Psycho sitting over in the corner with that baby doll. And it just looked so weird and strange. And first time I ever laid eyes on him, I was thinking, what in the world am I looking at here? It was a cast of characters for sure.
Yeah, and we got guys from all over the United States listen to this. We got a good following. Psycho was one of the area wrestlers, and I said that he was missing something, and so I gave him a baby doll, named the baby doll after my oldest daughter, and the baby doll was actually her baby doll. It didn't have an arm and didn't have a leg. It was like one leg, one arm.
Oh, man.
It looks strange, and Psycho does, Psycho's a strange-looking guy, too, so I can understand what you were thinking.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique look. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like a Killer Nichols, who was here in the Memphis area, got signed to WWE developmental, but he just had that look about him, like he looked like a serial killer. He looked like some sort of demented character, and that's what I always thought of Psycho as, is he just always had that demented, unique, horror movie looking character.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. So we have our first match. We want to keep on. We want to do it ever. Where did we go from? Because there's always that. I want to jump to Power Pro. I want to jump to all that stuff like we've done with everyone else. But I want you to tell me what we're doing before we get to Power Pro. Are we doing more Paragould, more all those little towns, or what are you doing in between?
Shows, we're just trying to get better, and that was that came directly from Brandon Baxter and Randy Hales, because we were part of the Power Pro Training Center, which Don Bass and his Outlaw School of Wrestling was what that was. And so we knew we would have an opportunity on Power Pro television. And I think some of the guys that we wrestled around the area with in those groups, they kind of knew that. And I don't know if there was a little bit of like, why do these guys get the opportunity? They just started, that kind of thing. So it was kind of a reputation that followed the guys that trained with the Power Pro school. But we were just working as much as we could because we knew we would get an opportunity on TV. And for me, of course, it was size and all that kind of stuff. Like I was in the gym all the time, but 20 years later, here I am. I never would have thought I'd won 2 Mr. Tennessee Men physiques. But back then, oh my gosh, man, it was like brutal trying to gain weight. But that's what we were doing, is gearing up for an opportunity on TV. The whole time, that was what it was all about.
And it was working. You said Brandon and Randy.
We would go on Saturdays. Yeah, we would go on Saturdays really early before the ring even got there, and we would set the ring up and then get in and train. So if the ring happened to be late that week and we were setting it up and the boys showed up for TV, we didn't even get to train, man. They'd kick us out of the ring. So it was something like every chance we got, even if it was to set the ring up and get 10 minutes of working in, that's what we did because that's where we wanted to be. And, yeah, Randy and Brandon, especially Brandon, because we just formed some sort of, I mean, we were both smaller guys. Brandon liked to wrestle, but he was a smaller guy, so he was a manager, and he was writing and booking at the time. But, yeah, we formed kind of a relationship, and they wanted to get us in there, man. They just had to figure out a way for it to make sense.
I know you're not going to remember this, but we were at Power Pro. I was there to one of the first times before the end of Power Pro. I was going to give him some tapes of some of my guys. You were there, and you were wanting to jump from the mat to the top rope. That's what you wanted to do. You were asking people to help you, and I actually showed you where to put your hand for you to jump straight up. Now, I've never done that move in my life, but I helped you. I do
remember that. Yeah, I remember that, man. And it's about positioning. Like Rob Van Dam would just be able to leap up to the top rope just effortlessly. And I don't think that fans, and I know that I didn't, but I think a lot of fans don't realize just how hard that is. Like a simple, when Eddie Guerrero would jump through the middle rope and do the roll and land up on his feet real smooth, like the hardest thing in the world, man. And sometimes it's just as simple as your hand placement. But I do remember that. That was crazy. It was right before Power Pro TV. And I was, just trying to figure out how to do a little bit more high-flying stuff. That's all.
Right. And it's funny because, like I said, I've never done it in my life, but I said, you put your hand right here and just jump, and you was like, hey, I can do it now. And I was like, yeah, I do that all the time. I do those high spots, so, Hey, man, let's do a quick commercial. We'll do a quick commercial, and we will be right back with Dustin 5-Star.
Glowing Hearts knows that you have a right to choose any in-home provider you wish. At Glowing Hearts, committed to caring isn't just a tagline, it's a promise to their clients, employees, and communities that they have the honor to service in Pemiscot, Dunklin, New Madrid, Butler, Scott, Mississippi, Stoddard, Wayne, Bollinger, and Cape counties. For more information, contact Glowing Hearts at 844-390-3735 in Marston or 573-803-2716 in Cape Girardeau. Glowing Hearts, committed to caring.
Get ready, guys. Mark it on your calendar. Saturday, June the 23rd, Harrison, Arkansas, Youth Center. A big reminder is that Harrison, Arkansas is only 30 minutes south of Branson, Missouri, and only about an hour from Springfield, Missouri. I want you to join us at the Legends of Wrestling as we return to Harrison, Arkansas. That's right, guys. This is a family-friendly event to help a great cause. All the proceeds will go to Jake Boulder's Medical Relief. So who's going to be at the Legends of Wrestling? It's going to be Jerry the King Lawler, Superstar Bill Dundee, Tim Storm, Hall of Fame referee James Beard, Gary Graham, Matt Riviera, Space Cowboy Jason Jones, the Diamond Dogs, Mr. Saturday Night Michael Berry, and many more. You can get your tickets at www.mswtickets.com. Be there! All right, we're back in the studios with Dustin 5-Star. Dustin, I've done this with everyone we brought on, so I want to talk to you about being on WrestlingRiotOnline.com. The nominations you had are just tons of nominations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, we're talking over 10 nominations, including TV Match of the Year, 2 nominations for that, Wrestler, Columnist, because you actually was contributing to the website. A couple of nominations for that, a couple of nominations for Arena Report Match of the Year. The wins that you won, you actually won Side of the Year because you're Dustin. What was it? DustinStarr.com? Is that what we had?
Yeah. Now it's all been transitioned to social media type of stuff. How funny it changes, right?
Then you was voted 2 years in a row as Horizon, and that was, the Horizon Award was who's going to be the biggest star, in the future kind of thing. TV Match you won in 2009, and Wrestler of the Year in 2009. And in the rankings in 2009, you were the second, ranked number 2 in the in the area just behind Derek King, always in the top 10 wrestlers, actually in the top 5. Here's what I wrote about you in the final post. He has done more than most guys in the area in the last 5 years. A WWE contract, worked on major TV shows, worked for TNA and all the local promotions in the area. He has tons of discipline, and guys that want to work for a living in the business should consider him a role model. So there you go. I put your ass over.
Nice, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I remember the Horizon Awards. I remember all the match stuff. I remember all that stuff, man. That was a really crucial time in my life as far as my career. And, that 2009 and being number 2 and all that kind of stuff, it led right up to in 2010, I did get signed, went to developmental. But after that is what most of this stuff has happened now because, we're emceeing for the Memphis Redbirds, which is the farm league for the St. Louis Cardinals, where you're in St. Louis. I MC for the Memphis Grizzlies, and me and Maria are signed with Team USP Labs. So go to usplabsdirect.com for any of your supplements, and also we host CW30 here in Memphis, the television station. Not to mention the radio program where we do an hour of wrestling on Sports 56 every Saturday at 11 with Kevin Cerrito. So all that stuff is because of all the hard work that I put into professional wrestling, and that was it. I think the word that you said was dedicated. Did I hear that right?
And discipline. Discipline is your
discipline.
That is you, man. That describes you more than anything.
Anybody listening out there, discipline is key. I mean, whether it's your diet, your lifting, anything that you want to do, you have to have a vision. You have to have discipline to get there, and that consistency, and that's what I wanted, man. That's exactly what I wanted, and I'm fortunate here that a lot of that hard work has paid off.
Yeah, and I mean, the idea, and you talked about being on Memphis and being on Memphis wrestling and live television. Actually, you still live in that. You're on live TV in Memphis, living your dream.
Live radio, TV.
Yeah, right. Talk about Power Pro. I mean, you when you went into Power Pro. Now, I talked to Simon about this, and we're talking about the Beale Street Posse.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about working Power Pro.
Well, Beale Street Posse was our first. That wasn't even Power Pro. I mean, Power Pro, it was just Dustin Starr. I don't even know that Simon really had a television match, or I know that we did have dark matches. We helped out with a lot. We did the house shows. I remember wrestling at Christian Brothers University with Power Pro. We did some shows with Power Pro, but really Corey Macklin and that group is when we got our first exposure as the Beale Street Posse. And we were a tag team. We were heels. They paired us up with Nate the Rat. So that was our first manager. And then eventually we, were getting cheers from the crowd. And so we split with Nate. And, me and Simon did the tag team thing for a while. It ended up turning into the lifeguards. But I remember we were kind of silly, man. We were always selling merchandise. We always had new T-shirts. We had bell bottoms on our knee pads, and I would wear my visor that had BSP on there. And Beale Street, for those of you listening, Beale Street is a major party city. It's a landmark here in Memphis, Tennessee. So it all made sense, and it was a spinoff of the Mean Street Posse because they were hot at the time. But I had my visor. We were in the locker room, and I remember Gangrel. They were talking to me and Simon. And I had my hat like backwards and sideways and all that kind of stuff because I was about to go to the ring. And Jerry said, man, what are you doing with that hat? I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, you look like a effing idiot.
Who said this, Lawler?
And Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of not knowing what to say, so I kind of laughed. And I said, well, that's kind of our gimmick. And he goes, your gimmick is to be an effing idiot? And I just looked at him, and me and Simon kind of, like not disrespectfully, but we didn't know what to do. So we just kind of laughed it off and joked it off and walked away. But that's what they thought of the Beale Street Posse. So there was a time where we kind of split from like the Beale Street Posse. They wanted the lifeguards.
Right,
and
right.
So
I remember
when we
that.
Came back there was a whole thing when we came back to TV. It was like, all right, do you guys want the Beale Street Posse or do you want the lifeguards? And they're like, anything but the Beale Street Posse. But yeah, we had a good time as the Beale Street Posse, though, man. We wrestled a lot of really good guys. We sold a lot of T-shirts, man. I remember one time just selling every single thing that we had. It was cool. It was a good time.
Well, I talked to Simon about that, and you know, he took it to another stage with just the posse, and I think you guys, especially you and Simon, were two guys that understood the actual gimmicks and selling, not just making money, the payday, but you were making money with T-shirts and photographs and everything. Where did that come from? Is there one guy that set you aside and said, hey, you should be selling gimmicks? Because Beale Street Posse and Posse shirts later on, I'm not bullshitting anyone here. I'm not working you. These guys sold the shit out of every time you were somewhere. I would see Posse shirts all over the place. I remember you guys came in to work a Kennett show, and it was a LAW show and my show, CCW. Yep. And the crowd I had a heel team going against you guys, and they were hot for you guys. Just huge reaction. You know, we had about 300 people there, and it was just, I was floored at the reaction you guys got.
Yeah, it was really nice, man. It was good. And I think we just learned as we went, because when you see a guy like Jerry Lawler, and that's where you want to be, and Bill Dundee, you know, guys like that are signing autographs at their table and selling their pictures for $10, $15 a piece. Like, oh my gosh, I might not be able to get $10 for a 8x10, but hey, let's get some merch together. Let's make some money. And I remember there was a time where if the promoter saw you or the booker saw you selling merchandise, they try to pull back on your money a little bit.
Oh my God.
And so we went through that. We were like, hey, wait a minute. No. When we come, you told us we would get this regardless of gimmicks. The gimmick money is our money. And, yeah, I remember this is a little bit off topic, but leading up to that, there were different influences because, you know, Simon at the time, he looked great, man. We were rocking and rolling, I think he felt like he had an opportunity, you know, to go to WWE or have a developmental opportunity if we weren't partners. And I think people were kind of telling him that at the time. And so eventually we ended up going our separate ways and kind of just doing singles. And he almost, at one point, really almost got signed. But that's how kind of Chris was able to come and slip in and start the new posse, which I never got hot about at all. I thought it was cool. I love little Chris too. And those guys are really entertaining. And you talk about merchandise. Those guys still sell a ton of merchandise.
I know. That's just so funny.
They still do.
Last show I was at, they were baby faces.
We still sell gimmicks too.
Do what now?
I said, we still sell gimmicks too. It's the funniest thing, man. They boo us out of the building. You know, when we're in the ring, they yell nasty stuff at us. But when the match is over and we roll out of the ring, they want to come meet us and buy shirts and pictures and stuff. So it's the best of both worlds for us right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost running out of time, but I want to touch. We're going to bring you back and talk about, you know, you did work for the WWE, and I really want the listeners to hear about all that. But this is mainly around the Memphis area. I brought Maria on, and we talked about her being a fan and her getting started, you know, and she got started because of you and everything. But what do you think? I mean, if there wasn't a Maria Starr, what does she add to Dustin Starr? I've seen her the first night and told you that she did a great job her first night, blah, blah, blah. It felt like she was a natural at doing what she did, but I know it has a lot to do with, you know, she said you and Derek and being able to. But what do you think, how did that increase Dustin Starr? Some people don't get that, but she made you more popular and added to your act. So what would it be if we didn't have Maria? Do you think you would be where you are right now?
No, I mean that totally reinvented 5 Starr. It really did. It reinvented it, revitalized. You know, not just my character and all that kind of stuff, but it really revitalized my desire to even want to wrestle. Because when I was finished with the developmental and I came back, the only reason I wrestled again was to show all of you guys that I was the best. And that's why I was there. No, regardless if they signed me to referee, ring announce, whatever, it didn't matter. I was there for a reason. And I just wanted everybody to know that. And I was in tip-top shape too. So I was in ring shape, ready to go. And I wanted people to know that. And there were a lot of bookings that I turned down because I didn't have interest in wrestling anymore. And then when the thing with Maria started, it was like she got into it and I got into it, and then we found our groove, and then it just made it better. So I don't know how much I would actually be wrestling right now had Maria not been a part of the performance. But I would definitely be pursuing, you know, the TV and radio stuff and all the stuff that we're doing now. It just would look totally different. And so She definitely revitalized, you know, my wrestling career, and we get to do it together. So the cool thing, man, is, you know, we've been together 8 years. We've been married 3 years, you know, and we work together. We see each other every day. We work together every day. And I think that we're better as a team than what we are, you know, apart or single. So, yeah, man, all the credit in the world. And, man, like you said, it was like she picked up on it so fast. I remember the very first time she was just appalled about how the people were calling her names.
Oh, yeah, I remember,
you know,
that.
Throwing stuff at her. And I had to tell her, that's what you want. And she's like, I can't believe those kids were saying, are you serious? I'm like, yes, that's wrestling fans. Man, they get into it. They, you know, they're supposed to do that.
She had a little kid who was
shocked.
flipping her. Yeah, she had a little kid that was flipping her off and calling her, I think, a bitch. And she was like, what were they doing, you know? And then I remember she said, you know, she asked all of us what, you know, and the only advice I gave to her was, look, always think that Dustin's in the ring, and if he's getting beat up, you got to react to it. You got to react to what's going on in the ring. You can't just stand there. And she was like, thanks. But, yeah, she – you know, you see some people, there's still some, you know, managers, valets, whatever you want to call them outside the ring that just don't get it. And from the first time she had, and I, you know, I give you guys credit because you were able to, if she was just thrown out there and no one helped her, but she understood what it was. And, you know, I've seen stuff she's done recently, and it's just, she's there, and I know you guys do this over and over, but it's being there at the right time, doing the right thing, and understanding why you're doing it. And she's got that understanding, which is awesome. We're going to get off here, but real quick, Dustin, I always forget to do this. Mm-hmm. Give all of your plugs, where can we follow you and all that good stuff.
Oh, man, so if you are in Memphis and you're a fan of baseball, come to AutoZone Park, because my Maria and myself were co-hosting and emceeing almost every single home game for the Memphis Redbirds. So that's been going on this summer, and it'll continue all throughout the season. You can still listen to us every hour on for a full hour every Saturday on Sports 56 WHBQ. That's 87.7 FM. Or you can go to Sports 56 WHBQ.com and you can listen live, or CerritoLive.com. You can listen on demand. Man, we've had everybody from Tony Schiavone, Bruce Pritchard, Mick Foley, The King, Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Jarrett. We have everybody on the show every single week, so be sure to subscribe. Also, you know, myself and Maria, if you turn on CW30 Memphis, you'll see us in the CW30 Insider, and then we also do a lot of the commercials. We're basically hosting the entire network. You can catch me at FedEx Forum during the basketball season with the Memphis Grizzlies. I MC there. Also, you can find us at USP Labs. So go to USPLabsDirect.com. We're there. We're all over the social media. You could follow me on any of those, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and Facebook actually, at Dustin Starr, or Maria at The Maria Starr. We have our full lineup that's listed on the site. But coming up on June 10th, Memphis Lucha Libre is bringing in Jack Swagger, and they're going to crown their first ever champion. Details are online there. June 15th, V3 Fights are setting up a ring in the middle of Beale Street, right in front of Jerry the King Lawler's Hall of Fame Bar and Grill. They're going to film Dana White is looking for a fight. And if Dana White is coming to Memphis looking for a fight, wrestling on Beale Street against one of Dana White's guys, with Dana White in his corner, Maria is going to be in my corner, and that means that Dana White just might go to Slap City on Friday, June 15th. It's a free event. And then on the 16th, we're coming back out to Paragould, Arkansas for June Jam. You can check them out at Classic Championship Wrestling Association. And then one quick little plug that's coming up in July. I know we're a little bit far away from that, but July 21st is the return of Roundhouse Revival. They're going to set up a ring right in front of Mid-South Coliseum. Derek King will be there. Jerry Lawler will be there. Myself, my Maria. It's going to be a full day full of pro wrestling out in front of Mid-South Coliseum July 21st.
All right, guys, you hear when I say plug your shit, that's what he did. He plugged his shit. So, hey, we'll be right here, back here, guys. Same bad time, same bad channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there and love my mama. Thank you, Dustin. Hey, thank you for joining us live from STS Studios in St. Louis, Missouri. And that was another great episode of Shootin The Shiznit. A big thank you to Bob McGee at Pro Wrestlers Between the Sheets, PWBTS.com. Locals to Legends, Gene Jackson at www.localstolegends.com. Sean Garmer over at W2Mnet.com. Guys, we're at Comic Book Mark BT on Twitter, at BT Shootin The Shiznit on Instagram. You can send a PayPal. That's right, a PayPal at Brian_Tramel, Tramel, at yahoo.com. All the archives are on our www.stspod.club page. That's right, Cool Kids Wrestling and MMA Talk Facebook group. You can join that and talk about wrestling. If we don't like you, we'll kick you out. There's also a Shootin The Shiznit Facebook page where we actually post all the new episodes. Remember, you can listen to this episode and many more on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, Pop Paradise, and Spreaker. And finally, a shout out to our podcast bros, Suplex City Limits, Creative Control, Who's Right Podcast, P3 Radio. And guys, remember, keep it at 100. Patreon site is only $1. Help my buddy JoJo out there. Only $1. Join us next week for another great episode of Shootin The Shiznit.